As of last night, I quit the rings. As a matter of fact, I'm going to quit all weight training or all exercises related to using my arms for the time being. If you're looking for a video where some shirtless guy is going to show you repetitions or progressions, this is not the video for you. If you're some sort of dietitian or expert weightlifter or something to that effect, this is not the video for you. I don't typically make videos about my person or my personal life, but in this case, I think that some of you could maybe benefit from my experience. I've been using the rings for the last 3 months, and I want to recount some of that and what it was like and where I am now. So, almost 3 months ago to the day, I made a build video for how to make these wooden rings. You'll find links in the usual places. Now, a little bit of background. Let's move backwards. Before I started using the rings, I was doing calisthenics training daily. But let's move back even before that. So, a long time ago, I was in college. No, let's go even further back. A long time ago, when I was younger, I was in not so bad a shape, but then I went off to college, and I'm sure you know how college is. Life moves forward with bacon cheeseburgers and beer drinking and stress. High stress, poor nutrition, very little exercise. And a few years spent like that go by and you realize, well, I'm not in as good a shape as I used to be. So I rediscovered my passion for mountain biking, thinking, because I had lost a lot of weight. Yeah, you would think it would be the other way, right? But I was never so totally inactive or unhealthy. But I started to lose weight, and so I started to mountain bike again. And I probably overtrained. I did it to the point where my knee and ankle started to give me problems. And I was doing it every single day, or at least 5 days a week, for a long time. And I started to become concerned with how much weight I lost, so I started into calisthenics and weight training. At this point, I had still not done anything with the rings because I knew nothing about them, so I was just hitting the chin-up bar endlessly, and probably harder than I needed to be. I would do lots and lots and lots of those repetitions. And what happened? Well, I didn't know anything about diet and exercise at the time, so it's been quite a learning experience. I didn't gain weight or very much muscle mass. I became more and more tone, which is useful for when you're seeking to become more toned, but in my case I wanted to just build muscle mass. So I later discovered that I should move on to weight training. I was making reasonable progress. I'm using the weighted vest to do heavy pull-ups, and I'm using these things for push-ups, and I was using a bowling ball to do push-ups from. You know, curls, the whole 9 yards. Before I stopped, I was curling something more than 40% of my body weight with a curl bar, and I was bench pressing 90% of my body weight in 5 sets of 8 repetitions. So that's not so bad, and the number of repetitions that I could do on the pull-up bar was something like 13, maybe 14 at my peak. At this time I moved into the rings. I had figured that I had a solid enough calisthenics background at this point that I could move and jump right in with both wrists, but what I've learned is that you have to really treat it with respect. The rings are no joke. They are nothing like any other workout. It just totally abuses your body. It breaks you apart and makes you feel pathetic. Despite being in reasonably good cardiovascular shape from a year plus of pretty hard mountain cycling, and despite having been doing calisthenics and weight training, the rings just punished me and made me feel like a complete sissy. They make you feel weak, and I liked that because of the intense challenge and the rapid, I don't want to say progress, but the rapid feeling of being put in your place. And it makes you feel like you're hunting the big game. My goal was pretty straightforward. I wanted to do a muscle up. So the concept of a muscle up is that you're hanging from the rings, and somehow you manage to use only your arms to pull yourself up and then press yourself into what's called the support position, which is this. The muscle up is ridiculously difficult. So I started with basic progressions, ring pull-ups and ring push-ups, where you put the rings all the way down to the ground and you do push-ups on them and you work on control. A lot of it is your wrist at the beginning is just completely weak, and the rings just punish your wrists into shape. There's kind of like high, medium, and low settings for the rings, and in order to put together the muscle up, you can think of it as drawing a line from east to west, and you start working from the west side and the east side at the same time in order to meet in the middle, which is the muscle up. Let me explain this analogy further. So since the muscle up has two halves, pulling yourself up and then coming over the bar in the middle is the difficult part. It's this part in the middle where you transition from hanging to picking yourself up into a dip position. So to do your progressions, you work these exercises where you're picking yourself up like this, and the other half is pulling yourself up like this. When I quit yesterday, I was right at that place where I was so close to getting the muscle up, but the injury was too bad. Let me explain. Tendons connect muscle to bone. So the tendon that's gone bad is in here somewhere. It connects my elbow to my forearm muscle, and through just endless overuse because of the rings, it's painful from here. It's very tender here, and the pain moves up into here. I have to stop, or else it will continue to degenerate. Part of the problem has to do with what's called the false grip, where you hold on to the rings this way, and it's in preparation for a muscle up so that you can pick yourself up into this position. So at first you just can't even bend your wrist this way, but you train and train and train, and I've been doing it for at least 2 months, and now I can pull the I have the sufficient strength to do the false grip and do lots of false grip pull-ups, but I've worn myself out. The forearm and elbow pain didn't start until probably 2.5 months in. But at that point I had already sustained a rotator cuff injury. It's one of the group... Okay, in the back of your shoulder there's lots and lots of muscles that have to do with pull-ups. And bouncing up in... Before you can do a muscle up, when you bounce up into this support position like this, which is what I was doing, when you bounce yourself up into that position so that you can do dips, because you're not strong enough to pick yourself up into that yet, it really takes its toll on your shoulders. So for the first month you'll just feel incredible pain in your chest, around your sternum, and in your back, especially in the center of your back and especially in the shoulders. Now, because of the bouncing up and into the support position, that's not a correct progression, but I was in a hurry and I wanted to get there quickly, so I overtrained and trained hard, and I did strain one of my muscles in that group in my shoulder. I had to stop for a week, and then I just fought through it anyways. That happened about a month in. So the first real injury aside from the endless pain from just your regular progression exercises, the first real pain from injury started at a month in. But I managed to shake it off, and I made it to about 2 months in when I started to get the elbow pain. Okay, finally, let me put all this together. Here's my warning to you, and then I want to make this into a cohesive point. It's my suspicion that there are 2 things that ended up with me having to stop. The first thing is the false grip. The false grip is brutal. The second thing is the negative muscle up. The negative muscle up is when you start from the support position and then you slowly lower yourself down into the hanging position. It's the inverse of a muscle up. So as you can probably imagine, doing this in repetition is pretty punishing to your body. You're hopping up into this position, or at least doing as much of the pushing up as you can, and then you're slowly lowering yourself, and at first you drop and can barely hold it, and then pretty soon you're getting pretty good, and at the point where I stopped I was lowering myself nice and slowly, but it was just too much. And thus I had to quit altogether for now. Now I'm not entirely giving up, but I didn't make my deadline. I had figured that by the end of 4 months I should be able to do my muscle up, and now I have to take an entire month off. So my advice and warning is that you should pace yourself, because the entire month that I could have spent training is now going to be wasted in rest, and I'll lose the progression that I've made. So you would be much better off slowing the process down and doing it over a long period of time, making mild, healthy progressions, than being an idiot and trying to rush through. And now that's exactly where I stand. I think that covers everything that I wanted to say. I wanted to get it on record so that I can remember, for one. And I hope that you're able to use this and maybe apply it to your situation. I would also like to mention that I'm in reasonably good health at the moment. I eat well. I have kale and grilled chicken every morning for breakfast. Yummy. And I don't eat any sugar, except a little bit in my coffee. But for the moment, in order to just, well, hopefully completely eliminate the degeneration of that tendon, I'm going to move back into bike riding. I have an obsessive nature, especially, and with exercising it's no exception, so it's hard for me to keep a balance. And to that point, I would like to express to you that it's probably not the best way to run your life. Moderation is key, and when you do become obsessive over something temporarily and you wear out your new toys, then there's always a price to pay. So be smart, and when you start to realize a pain like I am, just stop. I can come back to this later. I'll keep you posted and let you know what happens. I'll tell you in a month from now how I stand. I hope you found some value in this.